Today I'm demonstrating modeling techniques using clay. I have a picture of an old bunny body that I'm going to recreate. I have some pictures of the bunny that I was using to model after. Some of the things that I'm paying attention to are the feet and the front of this bunny, the feet on this bunny here and the direction those feet go. I'm starting with a solid clump of clay. The idea with modeling is that you can shape your piece using solid clay or an armature. So today's demonstration, I'm going to start just by getting the basic shape down. The clay is pretty sticky at this point, but it has been wedged. And what I'm going to do is just use my hands and my paddle to get the basic shape down. I'm using a little piece of canvas so that I can shape my piece and be able to start getting that basic shape down. So you can see it's kind of an old oval shape. Later on, I will hollow it out and it is actually going to become a bunny bank. So the person that made the original bunny, she actually used has a head that's separate and made it into what is going to eventually hold little treasures and trinkets and things like that. So right now I'm just patting it down and getting myself just a basic shape. Right now the bottom is really flat, which is not going to be the shape that holds. We're going to model after the actual shape that his underbelly will look like. Let me adjust this light real quick. So I'm going to pat the bottom side as well because I want it to be curved and more natural. Now my piece is bigger than what you guys are actually doing for your project, but I wanted you to be able to see how it comes together. Not doing any fine details, just kind of smoothing it out and getting that basic shape down. The bottom is definitely bigger than the front area there, so I kind of want to give that back end a little bit more clay. If you look at this picture here, you can see that the bottom kind of lifts up. So I'm going to pat my clay so that I can start to achieve kind of that same shape. The lower side right here is actually where the head and also the hole is going to go. So my first job being that I am patting the shape of the body, my next job is going to be kind of positioning some of the features such as the legs and whatnot. So what I want you to be able to see here is that a rabbit leg actually has, if you look at the shape here, his hip bones, that entire leg, this is actually like his knee right up in here. I would assume. I'm not somebody that really knows much about a rabbit, but I'm looking at this part here. And I'm trying to shape his leg so that it matches what I see. Now, I can use several different motions. I can pat it, or I can take my fingers and try to smooth it. Right now, my clay's pretty wet, so it's not letting me smooth nicely. But what I'm going to do is get that basic shape down, and I'm also going to start kind of pushing where that foot is going to go. So I'm going to give myself little indentations. So his little foot's going to stick out right about there. And that's going to give him a real nice start to that little foot. Now, if I feel like I've misjudged where that goes, it's a piece of clay. This is easy to fix. Pat it down and restart if you make a mistake. So for right now, I'm just using my hands. I'm not really using any tools other than maybe a paddle. And the main idea is just to get those basic features down. I'm going to adjust this so you can see them a little bit better. So now what I have done on this side, I want to try to do on the back side as well. On the other side is what I meant to say. So I'm just going to look from the top down and kind of see How can I make this symmetrical? And I'm just gonna use my finger to sort of draw a little guide for myself. That way I can try to make the back ends pretty similar. Now I'm going to turn this over here, and I'm just going to start patting it and getting it shaped a bit so it matches what I see. Let me give you this picture so you can see what it is I'm modeling after. If you start seeing little openings that you don't like, pat it back into place. Up here in the front is where we're going to see his little legs. I'm modeling after the feet on this rabbit, so I'm going to use that as my guide. Now I'm going to push a certain amount of clay up for his neck area, which is actually going to hold the head. Now, if I accidentally got a little too thin here, kind of remember that I am hollowing this out. If I want more clay in this area, I can always kind of push in with my hand, and similar to a pinch pot, I can kind of push that clay up and out. I'm gonna be hollowing it out eventually anyways, so it doesn't matter if I were to use that clay from the inside of the bunny later on, maybe not yet, but later on, I can push a little bit more clay to make the height a little bit taller if I wanted to. So in the picture of the original bunny, you can see the back end is quite a bit taller, and then she chose to put the ball on closer to the top of his back end. That isn't what I actually see in the pictures that I had, and I don't have them printed out, but that was a decision that she made for her piece. Nothing wrong with that. You're the artist, you get to decide. So she had wanted to have that big fluffy ball right on top of his back end. That's fine. You're the artist, you get to decide. I'm just making way for those little feet. I'm going to use some tools just to help separate some of the clay a little bit. This is just a modeling tool. I'm just using this to create a little bit more separation right here so that I can put that foot into place. Now today, because my clay is fairly wet, I am not going to wrap this with any wet paper towels. I am going to actually allow a little bit of air in my bag as I wrap it so that it will dry out just a little bit more for tomorrow. I do not want it to be leather hard. I do not want it to dry out, but I do want to be able to shape it and do more details, which I cannot do those real fine details when it's real wet like this. I mean, you can, it's just it gets a little bit frustrating when the clay is so sticky. So at this stage, I'm just kind of finding a little spot for those little feet, and I can always re-add clay to those areas that I just removed it from, but for right now, I'm happy with how that looks. And remember, it's just a piece of clay, so if you don't like the shape of it, you just make adjustments as you go. See this little wrinkle that happened as I was patting the clay? Well, that's actually really natural when you have a rabbit that's sitting up and stretching its neck up high the way that it's going to look when we're done. That little wrinkle that happened because I was patting the clay, I actually really like that and think that's a good thing that happened. So kind of keep in mind that when you're patting your piece and shaping it, you're going to see formations that happened. They may work in your advantage. Now I'm just kind of giving myself a neck space and an area for his front paws. Not doing any fine details yet. I'm just shaping where everything's going to go. I haven't taken clay and have had to add any pieces. I'm working with the existing clay and pushing it and pulling it and shaping it to get the look that I want. I'm not adding pieces of clay to it. I shouldn't have to do that at this stage. You should be able to move your clay around. But if you need to and you've removed clay and you want to put some back, the clay right now can very easily be pushed in and added without a whole lot of slip and score. So this is the stage where it is the most workable and easiest to add details because all of your clay is the same amount of wetness. All right, so now I'll show you kind of a side view. Remember, this is just the body of the little bunny. Here is the head, but the body itself is what we're forming. So it will eventually be hollowed out. What I'm working on is just making sure that I get those little feet put in, his back end shaped, and a neck area, which is going to hold that head on. So again, this is going to become a little bunny bank, similar to a piggy bank. This bunny's going to hold different trinkets and whatnot. So kind of fun, a little bit different. I like using my hand to pat him because my hand is rounded. Right now, if you are to use a paddle, you're going to get a really flat shape. Nothing wrong with that. You just want to make sure that if you're doing a rounded edge, that you're doing a light tap and not a really hard slap onto your clay. So I also like to, just use my hands to do that shaping. And you'll notice that the underside is getting really flat there. I am very mindful that as I'm shaping my bunny, that his body is not flat on the bottom, okay? We're gonna see the bottoms of his feet. We're gonna see his bottom area. It is not supposed to remain completely flat. So remember that detail. It's gonna be really helpful when you're shaping your own piece. And that is a really good start for today. So what I want you to be able to learn from this demonstration is how to get a basic shape of your animal so that you can achieve realistic results. Again, having photos for reference are important. A front view, a side view, a top view, back view, those are all really important things to know when you are shaping an animal. You have to use that photo reference to help you achieve accuracy.